Hello and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. Today we're going to be going over breaks in World of Warcraft, or specifically taking breaks in WoW. We'll get into that in just a second, but obviously we will start with the weekly news. We have this week Nurgash Muckformed, Morgeth and Antros as the world bosses for this week. Make sure you get your anima, make sure you get your conduits and gear from them, get participation in the latest Zereth Mortis quest, which is the patterns within patterns. All that good stuff. We have Warsong Scramble, which is one of my favourites, as the brawl this week. 3 flags, and all 3 can be picked up and taken back to your base. Doesn't matter who's got what flag, you need to capture 10 flags to win, and it's just a flag scramble pretty much. It's very chaotic and it's very fun in one of the best, in my opinion, battlegrounds in the game. And we have the weekly bonus event for this week is pet battles. You gain increased XP in your pet battles for your pets. So very simple. This week also is the week that Conquest Cap has been lifted, so there is no more Conquest Cap if you are looking to get into PvP. Sadly, there is no chests for catch-up mechanics just yet. Hopefully they will introduce them next week, but there's been nothing on the forums or anything about it, but we're just hoping and seeing, really. So yeah, no Conquest Cap, and there is a buff in Battlegrounds and Arenas, which increase the amount of conquest and battle or honor that you earn. So it's a lot easier to catch up with ults, which is really good. It's not by much, it's by like 25% in terms of conquest and 40% for honor. So it's really good. And if there's ever a Battleground weekly event, then this will most likely stack with that in terms of honor gained. So that might be a very good week to look to purchase some PvP gear on alts. But, just got to wait for that week, I guess. So, taking breaks in WoW. What do I mean by this, really? Well, sometimes it is good to look to take breaks during World of Warcraft. Now, obviously, we've all seen the loading tip when you're loading into the game. Everything is good in moderation, including World of Warcraft. Now, this is because someone has actually killed themselves playing World of Warcraft for, I can't remember exactly how long, but it was a few days straight without any sleeping. He actually, just died. It was in a cafe, gaming cafe, I'm pretty sure. So it was like very public, which was very weird because you would have noticed if you're working at that gaming cafe, this person just not ever leave. They might be eating? No, I'm not sure if they were eating or not, but it's one of them things. But yeah, people have died playing World of Warcraft excessively. Now, I'm not talking about, not everyone does that. Everyone's going to obviously go off, go to bed, do other chores, do work, play other games, stand up, do exercises. Everyone does a lot of things differently. But why would you stop and take a break in WoW? Now, these can be either days, weeks, months, or year breaks. But you can or the reasons why people would take breaks is because the game is stale. I know a lot of people who have taken breaks because the game has basically stopped for them. There is no content that is being released or is enjoyable to them that keeps them going and keeps them, constantly playing. I can understand this from a point of view of, say, maybe classic players and retail players, because lately the content route for retail has been really bad. It's starting to get better with the release of 9.1.5 and then 9.2. But with the content that's actually released, people might not actually enjoy the content. So therefore, the patch doesn't offer them anything new to play. With Classic, obviously, you get patches coming through quite regularly, every couple to few months, I believe. But with Classic, not much changes. Another raid is released. Yes, that is very good. And, you might get a few more daily quests, but ultimately, a patch in WoW Classic doesn't offer as much as a patch in Retail WoW, because in Retail WoW, you would mainly be offered a different zone, potentially, in the big patches. You'd be offered a load more daily quests, a lot more sort of repeatable things that you can do in this zone. Whereas if you're looking at Classic, you're going to be looking at, say, a couple daily quests and a raid. That's probably about it. The raid is obviously very good because it means that there is always new content and you can constantly progress your character and gear your character to better heights and standards. But eventually that raid will become, well, lost in time. Because if you look at it now, who's doing Karazhan? Like, who honestly is doing Karazhan in World Classic at the moment? There's very few people. Maybe guilds would go in for the Midnight Mount or something, just go kill Attune the Huntsman, something like that. But ultimately, yeah, people forget the raids. Now, this is the same in Retail WoW, but they are introducing a system within Season 4 of Shadowlands where all of the raids from previous patches in the expansion are going to be relevant in Season 4, which is something that they've never done before, and they're looking to bring back a lot of old content that can be used for endgame content. So all of this is going to be repeatable. So I can see where people sort of get the idea of it being stale because not a lot of content is being produced, and that might just be because people don't like the content that is produced. So 9.2 for Retail offered Zereth Mortis, and it offered a new raid, as well as a new PvP season, a new Mythic Plus season. It offered extra Torghast layers, which is the Jailer's Gauntlet. Now, if you don't like raiding, you don't like raiding. I don't prefer raiding, so I tend to stay away from raiding. If you don't like the Jailer's Gauntlet, or Torghast at all, you don't like it. I do like the Jailer's Gauntlet because it's what Torghast should have been from the start, in my personal preference. But I don't do a lot of Torghast and the Jailer's Gauntlet because I like doing Torghast with my friends. I like just having nice piss about in Torghast and trying to find the most damaging build possible. So I'll do insane AoE on my Warlock, or I'll do massive Star Surges on my Boomkin, or whatever. But my friends don't necessarily enjoy Torghast, so it's not an option that I get to do a lot of the time. PvP, some people might not be interested in PvP. They might not care that a new season of PvP and Mythic Plus is out. So they might just be very casual players who like leveling ults, or, doing pet battles or something like that. So a lot of the time, people don't actually like the content that is produced, and they are stuck with the same content that they already had, which they might have come to the end of, and in which case that is what makes the game stale for them and why they might take a break. Now, some people, or not everyone that takes a break, is thinking that the game is stale or it's boring for them or whatever. Some people actually take a break to prepare themselves for the next patch, the next expansion. I know a lot of people either come back from taking a break before an expansion to sort of catch themselves up and get their character ready to be their main character in the next expansion. But a lot of people slow down before an expansion to push the expansion as it launches, so you play a lot as the expansion goes live. I am the latter. I tend to slow down playing the game as a new expansion is released or announced, and sort of we're getting to the build-up point of the latest expansion. Now, I have slowed down. I've noticed this in myself. I have slowed down, personally because I'm playing other games, personally because I don't necessarily want to ruin a lot of... I don't want to ruin World of Warcraft for myself by overplaying it when there's a lot of content in there that I enjoy playing, but I enjoy playing with friends. So I'm not going to force myself to play that content alone just to try and, make it work. I would much rather cherish the time that I play with my friends in this content, such as the Jailer's Gauntlet or Arenas or something like that, or Mythic Plus, etc. But preparation does come into this as well for me. I like to prepare myself for the latest expansion. I like to gear myself up. I like to mentally prepare for it, to sit down there for several hours and go through the content and, I don't know, stream it, record it, whatever, as the expansion goes live. Now, a lot of people might not be able to immediately hop onto World of Warcraft and, play at that given time when the game is released. Some people might be working, some people might not have their computer with them at the time. Some people might be flying, traveling, stuff like that. So this gives them a reason to sort of go on Twitch and watch the gameplay and stuff, and it allows me to have a sort of sense of fulfillment when coming back to World of Warcraft after taking a little bit of a break. Not a full break, so I don't stop playing the game entirely, but enough of a break to enjoy, the aspect of getting back into WoW. It feels refreshing. It feels like you're playing anew again. Like, everyone remembers when they first made their characters. Everyone remembers their very first characters. I remember making my Shadow Priest. I named it after myself, and my dad and I played the game on that character. But my very first character, my very first solo character that is my main to this day, was called Perfecto. It was a Night Elf Druid. The name has been changed since, but it was a Night Elf Druid, and I remember just going through Shadow Glen. I don't really remember much of Shadow Glen. I don't really remember a lot of walking out of Shadow Glen and going towards Dolinar, the second town. But what I do remember is coming across these giant, the Wandering Ancients, these giant trees. I didn't know what they were called at the time, but they would just patrol the path, and one would walk into the middle of the town, stand there, and then turn back and patrol up the road towards Darnassus. And I remember him. He was giant. He was purple bearded, purple hair, and they were just fascinating to me, and I was fascinated with them. And that's what kind of caught my attention in World of Warcraft, the fantasy of it. And that's what you feel like if you've had the right amount of break time from World of Warcraft to prepare yourself for a next expansion, or to wait until there's more content for you if the content was stale in the past, for your opinion, and stuff like that. So no matter how long you take a break for, and how do I put this? How severe you take your break, I guess. Whether it be stop the game completely, stop playing the game completely, or whether it be you log on to, play for an hour instead of 5 every day, or you play like completely different to how you play now. So in terms of you're doing Mythic Plus every day, but instead you come on and just level for an hour or something instead, it's a lot more relaxing in that regard. You're not pushing yourself to the limit on your main character, trying to push mythic keys or trying to push a certain rank in arena. You're just very much relaxing and taking your time and revisiting what WoW was, which was very slow-paced leveling that you could just chill, listen to some music with. You can even turn up the ambience and the music in the places that you're leveling. I know the sort of tone and the theme to the Teldrassil music. I remember listening to that, and it gives me goosebumps when I level in them zones again. And I remember like just that sort of thing, and it gives me nostalgic vibes, and that sort of prepares me for next expansions and stuff like that, next patches. But it's more about how much you don't want to overwork yourself in playing World of Warcraft. Like how you don't want to overwork yourself in real life. You don't want to do too much work and burn yourself out. That's the word. That's the phrase. I found the phrase, burn yourself out. You don't want to be burnt out. And if you burn yourself out on a game, that game becomes tainted in a way, because it's very tough to get that drive again to play World of Warcraft. So to take breaks regularly in any sort of game, this isn't just World of Warcraft, in any game, is very healthy if you play a lot of games in your downtime as a hobby or whatever. It's very healthy, and you can pick up other games in the meantime. I know that I always go back to some old classic games that I always play. I'll play Heroes of Might and Magic 3 or Stronghold Crusader. I'll just go back to very simple games that, are just easy to play, and I can pause, I can save them and come back to them at any time. So breaks in WoW and breaks in games in general, shouldn't be just about WoW, are very healthy, and it is good for you. It's good in terms of if you want to keep your love for the game, it's good to get away from it sometimes. I have taken loads of breaks in World of Warcraft. I've played WoW for... I always ask myself this question like every several sort of episodes, and I can't remember the answers straight away. Since early Wrath of the Lich King, late Burning Crusade, so 2008, around that time. So 14 years nearly. Or 14 years now. But I have probably taken several long breaks from World of Warcraft. Now, these aren't stopping playing the game entirely. These are, I would log on maybe once a week to just level for an hour or so. Now, I would usually be on World of Warcraft for a few to several hours a day. Around that. Few to several hours a day doing whatever and whenever I could. So, Mythics, I don't really know, just random stuff. When it was Legion, doing some artifact weapons, world quests, poolings, you name it, I've probably done it, a reputation grind, whatever. But when there's big announcements, such as Dragonflight, I notice myself really slow down. So for me, it's more about preparation for expansions. And I think towards the end of expansions is when I start to slow down a lot of the time with World of Warcraft, because I understand what's happened in the game. I understand the lore aspect. I understand where we're going with the storyline and stuff like that. And I just sort of wind down. It's sort of being put in a sort of coma state, as you were. Or like, what is it, a lucid dream? You're conscious that you're taking a break, but at the same time, you know that you still want to play and you still have a love for the game, and you'll still keep playing the game at a certain level or a certain rate. I really don't know how to explain it, but pretty much for me, the breaks come at the end of expansions, and that's what gives me the motivation and drive to go into the next expansion for World of Warcraft and keep my love for the game. Some people might stop at the beginning of an expansion because they don't necessarily like it, and then think, oh, okay, loads of content has been brought out in this expansion, now that we're in 9.2, and you stopped as soon as the game was, or the expansion was released. So there's loads of different content that you can get into and sink your teeth into. Now, I find this weird, mainly because the content that's at the start of release is usually the most content that they give. But at the same time, to get back into an expansion, from the recent expansions anyway, and actually from past expansions, no, from every single expansion, I think it's been very difficult to get back into it from a gearing point of view, from a leveling point of view, from just a pick up where you are point of view, mainly because you've missed half of it. You've missed the first half and you're trying to catch the second half of something, and it's very tough to pick up what has happened in that time and what you need to be doing, what you need to be keeping on top of. So the first half of the expansion was very much do your coolings from your Covenant, constantly grind your anima, because the anima was very tough to obtain at the start of the expansion. Whereas now it's very much you need Cosmic Flux, which drops quite a lot. You don't need to do the coolings at all. You don't need to do worry about anima at all, because you're constantly getting it in Zereth Mortis. It's very much, tier sets. Have you got your tier set? Make sure you do your tier set and stuff like that. So it changes completely. And that's what people might like when they come back to the game. They might not like the dynamic of, doing your coolings daily, doing your anima, world quest constantly and stuff like that. Some people might just like, going into a raid and getting your tier pieces, whether that's looking for raid or whatnot. But yeah, there are catch-up mechanics halfway through the expansion usually that help you catch up your character, and some people take advantage of that, which is really good. But for me, taking a break towards the end of the expansion is a smarter way to recoup your energy and slowly generate it over time again. Now, I do this in a way that obviously I just hop on for an hour and level. I'm leveling a mage right now, and I've, for the past few days, just been doing that. I haven't really been doing arenas for the past couple of weeks. I haven't been doing. I did a few mythic pluses on my warlock because someone asked me to, join along, and I thought, yeah, may as well help them. But it's what you make of the game. It's how you keep your interest in the game. Some people might just play for a week entirely and then stop for a month and then be like, okay, well, I've had my sort of fix, as it were, and then play for a week in the next month and stop. They might play for 2 weeks straight and then stop for like 2 months. Everyone's got their own sort of boundary, or their burnout point, I should say. And that's very important in any games, but especially in World of Warcraft, if it's one that you're very nostalgic about, and it's any game that you're nostalgic about, definitely take breaks from it, because it might just save your love for the game, in all honesty. This is a bit of a weird one. I've kind of noticed it the past couple of weeks, and it's kind of been rattling in my brain about taking breaks in WoW, and the amount of people that stop entirely or ask about, what might be new in World of Warcraft. I'm looking to get back into it and stuff like that. I see loads of this stuff on social medias, and it just got me thinking about why it's actually good to take a break in WoW and slow things down sometimes. And yeah, one of them things. But thank you all very much for listening, as always. Looking at the time of this might be a bit of a shorter one, but it's a very important topic that does need to be addressed, in my opinion. But yeah, once again, thank you all very much for the support. Go with Valor, friend. Bye all.